Good evening and welcome to a new edition of To The Point. This evening we're going to discuss the development of education here in Egypt. With us is Dr. Gehan Zahran, Innovation and Education Consultant. A pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, dear.
The word innovation, in your opinion, what in this coming phase does Egypt need to introduce innovative methodologies of education to make our graduates competitive internationally?
Okay, that's a very nice question, by the way. To do that, we have to focus on the skills and to improve the skills of the students and to, discover it in the earlier ages, especially in the K-12 education. Nowadays, Egypt have started to use the international curricula a lot, even in the language school, in the language school itself, in the government. So we have already the international curriculum, so we have the chance to focus on the skills and to discover it, and exactly to know the students from the early stages what he can do in the future.
Yes.
And how to improve that. In that case, we will reach the innovation directly and easily. Especially now, when you have the high school students to know exactly where to go, which is related to the market, and in that case we can solve the problem that we save it here.
The quality of education thus far, how do you see it compared to international markets?
Okay, we still have a long term to be as the international market or the international education. We are going on stages. I'm not comparing here, but we have so many international curricula in Egypt, and we reached so many things and levels. But we cannot compare it to be on the same level in some stages. Okay, we have the international curricula, which is the British, the American, the Dutch, and extra. But we have also our education, which can be done on the international level after a certain stage. But we still have small percentage that our students can do that by themselves. Actually, they don't have the guideline. They don't have the strategy.
Yes.
We don't have the people who are still telling them with the teachers or instructors to tell them where to go. This is our main issue actually in education. Even if we have everything, we still need to integrate it with the teamwork and the market, the business market. This is actually what we need with the instructors here. But if we can compare it, no, we have the curriculum, we have the professional people that can do that, but we still need to integrate it with the market. Now, this is actually what we need, because we have so many grads in so many fields, but after they graduate, they don't find themselves. They don't find their fields that to work in, so they change it. They took another courses, they took another curricula to improve themselves, okay, to be applicable to what supposedly the market says to them. But this is actually the main thing. But if we integrated this and that, the market with education, and actually all the ministers should sit together and see, oh, that's the one market. We should target that. And we have so many resources to this, so the grads will find himself easily, and he can be improved in so many smooth ways.
Egypt now is, or has been within the past few years, doing lots of global partnerships with key educational institutions, not by university to university partnership, but maybe even by faculty to faculty, which gives it more of a competitive edge, because you're approaching the university through the competitive faculty, or the up to the highly ranked faculty. How do you see those partnerships affecting the level of education in the future in Egypt?
Actually, there is a very good restrictions coming from the President Sisi like 2 years ago, starting with the new universities, when any university starts with a platform, it has been a partnership. And that makes some kind of standardization. We want that in the beginning, as well as the existing universities actually, they have to do that to reach the accreditation.
Yes.
And that's really a very good, like something to be done. And that makes most of the level of the higher education follow international curricula. Mm-hmm. And no partnership will come to our universities and just giving the partnership like that. No. Mm-hmm. They'll tell her, do you follow the standards? Do you follow the staff academy? Do you follow the curricula? Do you follow everything? And then we're going to give you the dual degree. So that's why it is obligatory to the universities to follow the global standards, to reach it easily. And that's the shortcut way. And this is a very positive thing that happened related to universities actually 2 years ago. That's one item, and it's really most of the universities is looking for that, and they are forced to do this, as we are forced in COVID to use some sort of technology, which is already we have it long time ago, but we start to look at email, to work remotely, to use our technology, basic technology,
yes.
which is, we did it not that before, but we forced it to do it. In that way, this is a very good step. I can see it, like clearly and related to the higher education. And the K-12 related to the curricula itself. But this is the outcome didn't come yet because we just started to do the rules. We just started like 2 years ago. We cannot see it now. We see the outcomes when these students are graduated, and we see the impact of that.
Do you see the curriculums developing in a way to incorporate technological advances? For example, engineering or medicine education in Egypt. In your opinion, does it match the curriculum? Is it within the same strength? Is it absorbing or incorporating the latest technologies in those fields and the technologies needed for future markets?
Definitely yes, because any curricula in the higher education, it should be international one. Okay, so there is no doubt that the higher education, they are using the international curricula. But the point is, or the question is that really I needed to answer you in that point, which is again the updated and sharing knowledge and the global partnerships. No need just to have a dual degree, okay, but at least I have to cooperate with one of the international universities, which is related to the dentist or pharmacist or whatever. And then we can just sharing the knowledge, and that's really opening nowadays. Like education now in all the fields in education, it's cheap. It's not like before. Yes. It's open, so we can search and we can go online and we can share knowledge easily and freely. So that's not like before. It's hard to find someone that related to my field and then integrated with them and then to know the standards or the global standards. No, everything is open now. So all the higher education, they are obligatory by themselves. They have to compete. They have to be the latest. They have to be updated. And that's really what's happening nowadays. Not only the competition in universities, the competitions in the curricula, in the students, in really having the stakeholder, which is the main one, the students himself, which is supposed to take 70% of the intention. He is right now, not like before. And that's really what I can say, that the global ship and the partnerships and the integration and the dual degree is too easy, not like before. I can easily integrate and email one of the universities to check that I'm going in the right way or not. And that's happening with really, like what I say, the free chatting.
You mean students email universities to check?
Universities to universities, like the dean, for example, of business school in X university. So he can cooperate and just email one of the global partnerships in anywhere in the whole world, and they can share knowledge. Now it's open The world is open to themselves, especially in education. And you can take
But why would they share knowledge when, in a way, universities compete for ranking? Why would they share knowledge for free? I mean, why? I mean, if you want my know-how, then you have to sign some kind of a memorandum of understanding. Exactly. You have to open one of my a faculty in your university. I mean, it has to be some kind of a joint cooperation. I mean, why would they share knowledge for free?
Actually, in the beginning, it is something, even the MOU, this is actually, it's a free in the beginning. I can free to knowledge to me, and then you can know what I'm doing as a standard, and all of it on the sharing on the internet. It's really reference, a good reference for emails, not only researches. I mean, when the university research, there is a secured and really confident, like sure, confidence background. I can know the standard easily without even communicating. And then when I communicate, it's one-to-one situation. That's really happening most of the global universities. I will give you my knowledge, and you will give me your students to maybe make postgrads. Maybe they come and see my campus, and maybe enrollment later on, and maybe one of them I can go and visit and make a cooperation. Especially in Europe. In Europe, they have very little students in their universities, and they are really very high ranked. So they don't have global students that they can be enrolled in their universities. And that's really the main reason to share the knowledge. Plus there is an NGOs, okay, universities, they can share that, just little things, just basic fees, and they can share it expenses that really can be done to any universities, and it's normally happening.
Your job is, you're a consultant for innovation and education.
Yep.
If you were to give advice to decision makers in Egypt, for example, about how to advance our educational system, what would you tell them?
Oh, okay. Educators or teachers or professors, they need to know more their students, okay? Because our students nowadays, they have knowledge more than us. How I can be updated with them? I cannot stick to my own way of methodology in teaching. I have to be flexible, okay? Flexible means what? My lesson plan is not a holy Quran, okay? My lesson plan is something should be flexible according to the needs of my students. So I have to guide them, okay, in the way of the knowledge and the research skills that it should be improved from the beginning. I have to teach my student from the beginning how to search, okay, on the right info. If I give him a topic, I have to give him references to look for, okay, and don't leave him like that to go for any info that he can get it in the wrong way, and then I says, oh, you got it the wrong one. No, I have to make him a guideline from the beginning. I have to give him the skills, and that's really something very basically should be done in all subjects. I have projects in all the subjects, and that projects should be integrated with the self-confidence of the students himself. I have to teach him how can he express himself freely, not being afraid for what he's saying. I have to tell him education is sharing knowledge, is the teamwork, not just to cover yourself with the same info and cover it for my students for hiding anything that I can be shared with them. So there is so many ethics actually before methodology should be done in the beginning. Actually, like for example, the Japanese or the Singapore, like theory or traditions, and the way that we really adopted, this is not the curricula. This is the way. I have to make the loyalty for the place. I have to give the students to know exactly, this is my place, okay? I have to know the ethics of the teacher himself to give what he has, and don't stick to his own opinion. And that's really what the, you know, like the students most of the time get so closed and narrow-minded. They cannot be opened. They just stick to the info that they get. And that's the way that most of the teachers are doing in their curricula. They are giving the questions to be answered, fixed questions. And that's really what you can study. No.
But the teachers are not putting the curriculum.
They're not putting the curriculum.
The curriculum is designed by higher authorities.
Yeah, but who is designing the exam? Who is designing the assessment? Exactly. So the assessment and the exams and all of it should be, again, from the resources they have. Okay? And don't customize it. Make it open and leave the students express themselves and give the critical thinking questions from grade 7. Grade 7, this is the intermediate.
This is what's being applied now. I mean,
exactly.
the curriculum has become more analytical rather than straightforward.
Definitely. But the implementation is very important. I have the curricula, but how can I implement it? The people or the students for the community. We have the teacher, and we have the parents, and we have the student himself. So the teachers, they have the curricula and they study it well and be well prepared for what they're supposed to give. And I have to follow the resources I have. And if I follow the resources and if I follow the instructions with the curricula I have, everything will be fine. Believe me.
Schools, in your opinion, are they qualifying students to cope properly with universities?
The integration between the K-12 and higher education?
Yes.
Small percentage, I can say that this has truly happened. And that happened with the international curricula only. Okay? Which is, we didn't receive it yet in the governmental program, but by time we will get it once there is something that's happening nowadays. But there is a small percentage that they can reach that. Only the international curricula, they can reach the integration between the higher education curricula and the high school curricula. Because they are studying the advanced level of what they should take in the higher education.
Yes.
For example, in the British curricula and even in the American one, or even actually in the other curricula. So they have so many main subjects which is related to the universities, and the students himself choose the subjects that they really need to study according to his interests and desire. So, and that makes things easily in the international curricula. And that's the percentage that I'm telling you that happens in the integration.
This happens in the national curriculum because in high school you decide whether you want to go into literature or take scientific.
Okay.
And in scientific it's even divided if you want to be specialized in science or math. I mean, this takes place but in high school.
In high school, but is the subjects that I'm taking in the high school, in that department that I'm studying or completed in the higher education? The answer is not all of it. No, I'm studying in the high school, in the government. Some subjects need to be omitted, need to be now, I have to be focused on the things that really I will continue to study. But for example, there is basic subjects that the students cannot find difficulty, like the math, physics, of course Arabic, the language. But others, no, they can find difficulty in the beginning because it is international curricula. Again, all the universities, they are studying the international curricula, even the government. So the students find a little bit difficulty to use that. But by time, if you have like something that really extra courses, some self-development, they can go easily and they can reach easily also.
Global partnerships, in your opinion, in the educational field, are they helping? They're helping advance education, but how can you advance education yet retain some of your print or some of your keep the heritage, so to speak? Because when you do a consolidation, really, the curriculums that are being devised really change the culture.
Yeah, but definitely we have any curricula in the whole world or any country have to keep the culture. So that's why I'm saying that tolerate it. You have to tolerate the culture itself and to adopt something that you can put. I'm saying like before, it's not a holy Quran. It's not something religious that you cannot be, you know, like taken as it is or accepted as it is. I'm taking the basic things and I'm really omit what I can say it and eliminate what I have to follow. I'm giving you an example. For example, in the international curricula in American, there is social studies subject.
Yeah.
This social studies in the American, in grade 4, they are studying a whole text, all of it, the American history. Okay?
It's
I'm not supposed. I'm not.
It's the American curriculum.
This is no. Actually, this is not supposed to be done. You are free to let them know wherever you can be adapted to your culture. So, for example, Jordanian country, they make another book in the social studies, okay? And this subject is related to our culture, Arabian culture, all Arab culture, because it's something related to the culture itself. So they are teaching students in the early, in elementary or high school or intermediate, how to deal with your neighbors in the Arab way, and you are free to do that, okay? But you are instructed to use the basic rules, like the math, English, the basic subjects. But you're free, so this is what I'm talking about. I'm telling you now that we can adopt anything related to our culture, and we can be the same, keeping our culture and nature and heritage and everything easily. This is not because I'm international curricula.
Yeah.
I can just, you know, like just be far from my heritage and culture. No, it can be done easily. Most of the, you know, like in Arab countries and Egypt, they are doing that. Especially that there is another subject, it should be done with the culture. So there is no harm to tolerate whatever you can do, but to keep the standards, keep the international standards for the level, for the common level or common core.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's free to do whatever you like.
Part of education is not just development of curriculum, but also helping students, especially high school students, advise them
Yeah.
on how to further their studies, in which fields to further your studies. It's quite difficult for 16, 17-year-old to actually be faced with a decision where he or she would be selecting what kind of studies I would continue.
Okay.
Most of them don't even know. I mean, when you say medicine or engineering, fine, but now we have so many branches of engineering.
Yeah.
And to get a 16 or a 17-year-old to make a decision what kind of engineering to study, what kind of medicine to study, even business. The way we were taught business is quite different from business as it is being taught today.
Yes.
So advising, not just advising to explain what the curriculum is about or the kind of career that this major would lead you to, but also advising on what does the market need.
Okay.
Parents, some parents do this, which is quite difficult, but to get your young child or young man and woman to imagine the market 10 and 15 years from now, what would be actually needed in the field. It's quite difficult, but not all parents are capable of doing that.
Definitely, yeah, of course.
How do you see this? How should this be incorporated to ensure that graduates are studying what is needed so that when they graduate, they can find jobs? Because some fields are going to become obsolete quite soon.
I completely agree with you, and that's really a main issue in most, not most, majority, actually, of the students. That will make us come back to discovering the skills from the early years. Okay, if I am a teacher and in so many subjects. I'm not talking about one subject actually. But in my subject, which I'm teaching, I can discover the skills of my students. Is he really, like can develop? And this happening from my assessment, from my projects, from the way I'm always getting to them. So that's the first stage. I discover and develop the skills which is I already discovered from my students. Next stage or next step, it will be the skills of researching. So the students now, he's searching all the time for the things that he's really attracted in. So and he's got more info. Okay, when he got more info, you will find him more interested for something. And now the third stage coming from the guideline. What's related to your skill and integrated with the market? And that comes from the consultation. Like most of the schools now, they're making the career day, okay? And they are giving consultants from abroad to having a lecture from someone in so many fields to tell them his or her experience, okay? And they have integration questions.
Yes.
Coming and going and what difficulty they have faced, and now they can know a little bit what's going on in the market. Can I go on with that suffering that the lady have been faced when she is X position, or I can go to other fields? So that's coming the consultation all the time in the higher education.
Yes.
And actually from early, as I said. Easily, the students in high school, he will know a little bit where to go, or he can minimize choices. I can be this or that. If I'm scientific, this is the market needs. If I'm non-scientific, this is the market needs. And that comes all the time, as I'm telling you, from the consultation of the people who's really discussing and know the market well. And this is what the schools, maybe I'm addressing from your respective program, that principals in the schools, the people who's really aware of that, integrate most of the time with the outsource to come and guideline to your students to know exactly where to go from early stages.
Dr. Gehan Zahran, thank you very much for joining us this evening on To The Point. Stay tuned for more to come right after this. Welcome back. With us on the line is His Excellency Ambassador Ahmed Haggag, former Deputy Secretary General of the Organization of African Unity, to shed light on the extensive visits that President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received earlier from African leaders. Your Excellency, can you hear us?
Are you asking me about the visit of the Foreign Minister of Angola?
Yes, good evening, Your Excellency.
Yes, Angola and Egypt have a long relationship. Egypt was among the first countries to recognize the independence of Angola, which is endowed with a very rich oil industry, but it was torn in the past after independence by a civil war between two factions, one leftist and one rightist. But since its stability in Angola, Egypt established a permanent mission over there. And Angola was careful also to establish an embassy in Cairo. Egypt renders a lot of scholarships to Angolan students, especially the military and medicine and industry.
Yes.
And we have some doctors and technical assistants in the Angolan territory.
Sir, the purpose of the meeting, in today's meetings, the President stressed numerously the need to support a joint African action mechanism. In your opinion, how can this be achieved?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear correctly. Could you repeat the question, I guess?
President Sisi said that there is a need to support joint African action mechanism. How can this be achieved, in your opinion?
I think this is a very noble idea. that African problems had to be solved by Africans themselves. There is no problem in inviting other outside assistance in this regard, but African intervention should be paramount.
Yes.
And this is what happened in the civil war in Angola. The African countries were very instrumental in bringing the civil war to an end. And furthermore, and we have seen that with the African Union, that several African problems has been paramount in intervention by African countries, but unfortunately not all the problems have been thoroughly intervened and sponsored by the African Union.
Mm-hmm. Your Excellency, the Libyan file, how can African countries consolidate efforts to move the Libyan file in positive strides, in your opinion?
Remove religion?
Yes.
Yes, yes. There are some intersectorial tension among religious adherents of different religions, and now we find that Boko Haram, unfortunately, are intervening and killing many thousands of Nigerians using religious slogans.
Yes.
And also we have seen that in Uganda, in Democratic Republic of Congo, in Somalia, and so on. So this is we have to increase education of the African people, try to make the preachers either in the mosque or the church intervene to calm this fervent religious fervors and increasing the dispute and tension among religious factions.
President Sisi also met with the Deputy Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Minister of Environment and Sustainable Development. One of the key issues discussed today was preparations and support for COP27, which Egypt is hosting this November. How can we work together to advance environmental protection in our continent?
I think paramount of the discussion was the forthcoming international conference about climate change in Africa, because Africa, although it produces very little carbon in the atmosphere,
yes,
but it's the most affected continent in the world. That's why President Sisi said we are going to work to have an African common position in this Sharm el-Sheikh conference and work for the adaptation compensation which will be rendered by the rich countries who are responsible for the climate change. I think this is paramount discussion of the Minister of Environment and the Deputy Minister.
Your Excellency, before we wrap up, how do you see the progression of Egyptian-African relations within the past few years?
Egypt-African relations progressing all the time, perhaps. There was little emphasis here and there, but now it is a paramount priority of the Egyptian government. And we have embassies all over Africa, and also African countries choose Cairo to be the basis of their diplomatic representation in Africa. And we have several programs to assist in ground alleviation, technical assistance, doctors, engineers, university professors. And we receive almost thousands of African students who are studying in Egyptian universities.
Yes. 3 high-level visits by African dignitaries or leaders in one day.
I think this is proof that African countries care about the relations with Egypt. And also reciprocally, I think President Sisi was the first Egyptian president who have visited African capitals for the first time in the history of the Egyptian-African relations. I think African countries like to see what the point of view of Egypt on different African issues, the forthcoming summits of the African Unions, and the technical cooperation between Egypt and their countries.
The balance between the developed and developing countries. Can African nations work together to narrow the gap between the developed, the developing, and the less unfortunate, if we can put it that way?
African economies have strongly hit by the pandemic on the coronavirus, and now they are affected again because of the Russian-Ukrainian war. But we have sub-regional organizations, economic organizations, 5 sub-region. They are supposed to work together to alleviate the poverty in their countries and cooperate in common industries and trades. But the forthcoming lifting of trade barriers among African countries and proclaiming the Africa Free Trade Zone will affect positively Africans working together.
Your Excellency, Ambassador Ahmed Haggag, the former Deputy Secretary General of the Organization of African Unity, thank you very much for joining us on To The Point. I'd like to thank you, the viewers, wish you a very pleasant evening, and I'll take this opportunity on behalf of myself and To The Point crew, wish you Muslims worldwide a very happy upcoming Ramadan, and we'll see you Ramadan time next week, and good night.